So when the Human Rights Act was incorporated into English law, it was simply codification of things that had been going on for many decades. And having it codified meant that it was far easier to point to something, to say, these are my rights, I can point to it and I can enforce it. It was much more difficult prior to that for individuals to say that they had a right, because you had to read various judgments, you had to sort of try and work out why something was wrong, why something was unfair, and how you could put that right. So I remember as a lawyer when I first started out, that when something was wrong, I knew that there was a judgment of a court, a decision which I could point to and say, look, this is how I think you can change what's happening to you. This is why I think an organization has been unfair to you. This is what I think you can do in terms of asserting your rights. It's all to do with the common law and decisions, and it was very difficult for individuals, communities, and others to enforce their rights. So when it became codified, when it was incorporated, it was far easier for people in the community to say, these are my rights, this is what I can point to. What the Act did was reflect what was happening over decades, generally speaking. There were some additional things. And the Human Rights Act now has, particularly with lawyers like me, has got a bad rep with some politicians, not all politicians. And I remember when the Labour government first introduced it, and I spoke for the first time, I was really optimistic about what it would do, about the ability of individuals who were badly treated, unfairly treated, to enforce their rights. I had a level of optimism. But in the back of my mind, and looking back at the lecture I gave at the time when it was first introduced, I said it could be used for good, but it also could be challenged. And now we see the challenge to that with the latest attack on human rights. And as a lawyer that's often represented victims of miscarriages and at the same time represented those who've been charged with terrorism, I get accused of acting for people who shouldn't have rights. And what we've got to remember that these are universal rights. They apply across the board.